All right, welcome back. And when you're buying a house in Flower Mound, you're going to regret buying this house unless you walk through these 6 items that I'm getting ready to talk to you about. You need to, number one, you need to understand the real cost of what that house is. We have beautiful properties with beautiful amenities in here, but there's going to be certain maintenance things that you're going to have to take care of. And a lot of these areas have HOAs, which are not huge, but some of them are. Some of them even have double HOAs. These are costs, these are additional monthly costs that you may not even be aware of. You know, you might have increased water bill because you have a big sprinkler system. I have 7 zones. I know somebody that has 40 zones. It's a lot. It's a lot of watering, you know, and your electricity bill might be higher. Just understand and know what the real costs are before you dive into this. The second thing with Flower Mound is, and the surrounding area, this goes for Double Oak and Argyle and Highland Village, even Louisville. You got to understand the market pace. Homes in Flower Mound can, if they're priced right, they will move fast. They'll move in a weekend. Nothing's really changed with that. I mean, if it is priced right and the seller is motivated, this house will be gone. If you think that you can sleep on something, don't. Get that out of your head. You know, when something hits the market, you know, especially if you're working with, you should be working with an agent, but when you're working with an agent, you need to be dialed in and ready to roll. Because listen, I'm telling you, when I post something on for sale, there's a thing called reverse prospecting. I'm kind of going off to the side here, but there's a thing called reverse prospecting. And I can tell you all the agents and the agents' brokerages of all the people that they have set up on listing alerts. And it could be 200, 300 people sometimes. So if that's your competition and they're ready, they're getting the same alerts that you're getting. So you need to understand what the market pace is. Just because there's a little bit more inventory and everything, it doesn't mean anything. You never know who's out there and who's ready to pull the trigger if you're not ready. And this leads me to point number 3. You have got to get pre-approved early. And I'm not talking about pre-qualified. There's a difference. Pre-qualified is like, hey, I called the bank, and the bank said based on my income, blah, blah, blah. They don't know all your debt to income ratio and all that other stuff. And they'll approve you and give you a letter. That is not pre-approved. Pre-approved is almost going into underwriting to the point that they have looked at your paychecks, your finances, your 401k, I mean, whatever they're going through. You know, you may have rental property, whatever you have, they have gone through and they have approved that. And you've got to, I'm telling you, do not skip this step. Most agents, including myself, will not, and I'm a broker, will not show you a property unless you are pre-approved and you are down the road, because I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call that mortgage person and say, where are you at in this process? Otherwise, everybody's just spinning their wheels and you're wasting time and you're showing pretty homes. You know what? That's not the way a serious buyer operates, because you may get into a situation where you have a bidding war and you need to make sure with your lender, and your agent should follow up on this too, that you're prepared for a situation like that. The house is 600,000. It may go for 625, 650. Are you prepared to do that? Have you already run the numbers? So you need to think about that. So Flower Mound's in Denton County, as is these other areas, Argyle, even Trophy Club, different parts. You need to understand what the property taxes are. Now, there are other situations called MUDs and PIDs and some other taxing entities that you may have to be aware of. I see it more so in Dallas and in Fort Worth than I do out here in the suburbs. But you need to understand your biggest tax is going to be your school tax. That's number one. Then you got county and city. And you need to understand what that tax bill looks like. In Texas, we have a homestead exemption, which knocks down the taxes a little bit. If you're over 65, that helps too. I'm only 62, so I hadn't been able to take advantage of that yet. And there's some other disability exemptions for the military and stuff, but you're just going to have to, work through that and talk to the county on a separate basis. But you got to understand because if you're getting a loan and you're putting down, let's say 10%, they're going to more than likely, not in all cases, but more than likely, they're going to ask you to escrow your taxes, escrow your insurance, and then you are going to have the property payment. And need to know what that number looks like way ahead, and what the possibility is if you've got to go even higher than that. One thing that um, some people that I've worked with don't really pay attention to is, before you're going out and looking at homes, especially in Flower Mound and some of these surrounding areas, anywhere really, you need to find out what your commute is. I mean, if you're working in Dallas, I worked with people that were working at some of the hospitals in Dallas. I mean, that can be a 40-45 minute drive. If you're going to the airport on a regular basis, we're in Flower Mound, 20-minute drive, 30 minutes tops. It just depends on the traffic going into the airport. It's really pretty easy coming in from the north side. But if you're operating in Fort Worth or somewhere else, do the commute in heavy traffic, and kind of get an idea of, what you're going to be dealing with, because that could be your biggest mistake in moving here, because you're going to be hating life if you're sitting in traffic on George Bush or the tollway or any of these other highways and there's an accident. I mean, you're going to get tired of that really quickly. And the last thing I'm going to say is, really, really work with somebody that knows the area, that knows Flower Mound, that knows Double Oak, Highland Village, the surrounding areas, knows what it's like to drive into Dallas, knows what it's like to drive into Fort Worth. If you're working, you may even be working in Denton, which is 30 minutes north of here, working for the university. I don't know, but talk to someone who's been doing this for a while. I'm not talking about a year, I'm talking about at least 5 years. And that way you can get a really good sense of moving your family here, moving here, feel comfortable about what you're doing, and take your time and try to give yourself some lead time so that you can come out here to Flower Mound and drive around and, just get a feel for the area. It's just a wonderful place to live. I love it. And I look forward to seeing you next time.